When your cat touches you first, do you actually know what that means? Yes, it feels like affection. It feels like they simply want attention or warmth. But behind that simple, gentle reach, there's something deeper that most people miss. It's one of the most emotionally loaded things your cat can do. And if you ignore it or misunderstand it, which most owners do, you might completely miss what your cat has been trying to communicate in the only language they truly trust. Let's start with what it really means when your cat touches you first. Have you ever been sitting quietly and your cat walks over and places a paw on you first without you calling them? Most people think this is just attention-seeking behavior. Maybe they're hungry. Maybe they want playtime. Maybe it's random. Here's what's actually happening. This is not random, and it's not just need-based communication. It's initiation of trust-based contact. Cats don't naturally initiate physical contact unless they feel emotionally safe in that exact moment. Behavioral studies from the University of Lincoln on cat-human interaction patterns found that cats actively choose when to initiate contact based on perceived emotional safety and stability in their environment. But what the study also suggests is something more powerful. Cats use physical initiation as a controlled social signal, not a casual gesture. Think about that for a second. When your cat touches you first, they are not asking for something basic. They are testing emotional response. They are checking whether the connection feels safe enough to engage deeper, and what this reveals is simple but powerful. Your cat doesn't just live around you. They emotionally evaluate you, and this is just the surface. Because what's happening next goes even deeper than trust. When your cat touches you first, it activates something deeper than behavior. It activates neurochemical bonding. Here's what's actually happening. Research from the University of Tokyo on domestic cat social behavior shows that cats use voluntary touch initiation as a bonding mechanism that correlates with increased oxytocin release in both cats and humans. In simpler terms, touch is not just contact. It is chemistry. When your cat chooses to physically initiate contact, their brain is reinforcing emotional connection through chemical reward pathways. But here's what most people don't realize. This isn't just about comfort. It's about attachment regulation. Behavioral scientists explain that cats who initiate touch regularly with specific individuals are forming stable attachment figures, similar to how infants bond with caregivers. So when your cat touches you first, it's not a habit. It's a regulated emotional decision backed by biology. And emotionally, this means something very important. Your presence doesn't just comfort your cat. It stabilizes them. And that's where things start to become even more personal. Have you ever noticed your cat gently touching your hand, face, or leg before settling nearby? Most people think it's affection alone. But there's another layer. Here's what's actually happening. Cats have scent glands in their paws and around their face. When they initiate touch, even lightly, they are transferring their scent onto you. This behavior is often called social marking, not ownership in a possessive sense, but inclusion. It's their way of saying, "You are part of my familiar world." Studies in feline pheromone communication show that scent marking behavior is strongly linked to emotional reassurance and environmental stability. But emotionally, it goes deeper than science alone. Think about that for a second. Your cat is not just touching you. They are blending their sense of safe space with you. And over time, you stop being an external presence in their life. You become part of their internal comfort map. This is why cats often return to the same person for touch initiation again and again. And if you respond gently, calmly, consistently, you reinforce that emotional map. Now, before we continue, there's something important to understand. And hey, if this makes sense to you, hit like and subscribe. It helps us reach more cat lovers who actually want to understand what their cat is really saying. When your cat touches you first, you are witnessing a behavior that goes all the way back to kittenhood. Here's what's actually happening. Kittens use touch constantly with their mother, kneading, pawing, pressing, to communicate safety, hunger, and connection. In wild feline behavior studies, early life tactile communication is one of the strongest survival bonding mechanisms between kitten and caregiver. As cats mature, they don't lose this system, they adapt it. Instead of using it only with their mother, they begin using it with trusted figures in their environment. That means you are being placed, behaviorally, into a category similar to a caregiver or bonded. Safe figure. Think about that for a second. Your cat is not just being affectionate. They are activating an ancient survival-based bonding pattern with you. And what makes this even more powerful is this. This behavior is not learned from humans. It is inherited from millions of years of instinct. So when your cat touches you first, they are not copying human behavior. They are repeating something older than domestication itself. And that leads directly into something even more revealing. Have you noticed your cat does not do this with everyone? Not with strangers. Not even with every person in your home. Here's what's actually happening. Selective touch initiation is a sign of emotional prioritization. Behavioral research from domestic cat cognition studies shows that cats differentiate between social partners based on consistency, tone, and emotional predictability. They don't distribute touch behavior evenly. They assign it. And once assigned, it becomes stable over time. So when your cat touches you first, they are not just engaging socially. They are choosing you as a primary emotional reference point. Think about that for a second. Out of all available options in their environment, they selected you. And this selection is not based on logic. It is based on emotional safety patterns they have learned through experience. This is where most owners get it wrong. They assume cats are independent to the point of emotional detachment. But the truth is the opposite. Cats are selective, not distant. And that selectivity leads us to the deepest part of this behavior. When your cat touches you first, there is something most people completely overlook. Here's what's actually happening. They are exposing vulnerability voluntarily. In feline survival instinct, initiating contact first removes the safety advantage of distance. They are choosing proximity over control. Researchers in feline stress behavior have noted that voluntary approach behaviors, especially touch initiation, correlate with lowered defensive readiness and increased emotional reliance. Think about that for a second. Your cat is giving up distance, and in nature, distance equals safety. So when they touch you first, they are overriding instinct, not because they are weak, but because they trust you enough to reduce their own defenses. This is why this behavior feels so powerful, even when it's subtle. It is not about the physical touch, it is about the emotional risk behind it, and most owners never realize this. Your cat is not just reaching out to you, they are choosing emotional exposure in your presence, and that changes everything. Now here's something important. What if your cat used to touch you first, and now they don't? Here's what's actually happening. A sudden drop in initiation behavior can signal emotional or environmental stress. Veterinary behavioral research shows that changes in social touch initiation are often early indicators of anxiety, discomfort, or disrupted attachment stability. This doesn't always mean something serious. Sometimes it's a change in routine, environment, or stress levels, but it is never meaningless. Think about that for a second. If your cat stops choosing you first, it is not just behavior change. It is communication shift. And this is where most owners make a critical mistake. They wait for obvious signs instead of noticing subtle withdrawal. So if your cat stops touching you first, don't ignore it. Observe, adjust, rebuild safety through calm presence and consistency. Because the goal is not to force contact. It is to restore the feeling that made contact feel safe in the first place. So when your cat touches you first, do you actually know what that means? It's not random. It's not just attention. And it's definitely not meaningless habit. It is trust, communication, scent bonding, evolutionary memory, and emotional selection. All expressed through a single, simple touch. That's not just affection. That is your cat choosing emotional connection over instinctual distance. And that touch, it was never small to them. and it shouldn't be small to